My name is George Aritas, and I'm one of the owners at Safe and Steady. What we do is really provide help for the senior community in order that they can stay in their home for as long as possible. Today, I think a big issue is that with nursing homes, assisted living facilities, people prefer to stay in their home. And a lot of them think that possibly that it's too expensive to have a caregiver in your home, where actually it's more affordable than people think, and probably more affordable than some of the assisted living and some of the nursing homes. It all, again, depends on how many hours a day, the type of care, and so on, but it is actually very affordable. Some of the insurance companies do studies all the time on it. One of the bigger long-term care insurance companies just did a study on the cost of home care versus assisted living and nursing home, which you can get on the internet. You can see these, and they came out with that for the average, it's about $47,000 a year to have a caregiver in your home. Again, that varies on how many hours a day. That's based on about 6 hours a day, whatever. Some people have 24-hour care. People that need that may be able to do it as a live-in, which is more affordable, as opposed to an hourly caregiver, which is based on an hourly rate times 24 hours. That does get more costly, but again, depending on the type of care that one needs, on average, you can have a caregiver in your home, stay in your home, not have to go to a facility, and be comfortable and safe. So that's what we basically do, is arrange the schedules, arrange the caregivers, find the right caregiver for personality, type, and so on, and try to make that fit. We're more of a, I guess, a boutique type agency where we cater to. We're not a. There's a lot of big agencies out there that are franchised, and they basically send the next caregiver, whoever's on the list goes out. We try and match up a little more with the client's personality, their needs, and so on. Basically, this is a care business. You have to care about your clients to do the right job, in my opinion. And when you have too many people and you're just sending, just the next certified person out without trying to figure out if they're the right person, I don't think you're doing justice to the client. So that's basically what we try to do. Try to give the client that right fit. Now, sometimes it's a process. It's sometimes, we try and get as much information to do it the first person we send, but sometimes it can be a process. And if the first person we send isn't right, we'll get the second person. It's until the fit is right. Because this is it's basically long-term care. We're not doing this for 2 days or whatever. It's long-term, so once you put the effort into finding the right person, making that right fit, it's going to last a long time. Many of these caregivers become, family to these people, to our clients. There's a bond that occurs. And there's safety issues. We do background checks, level 2, which is national and statewide. They have to have all their credentials. They have to get them updated every 2 years. They have CPR training, etc. All these factors come into play on choosing the right caregiver. I get the question asked many times about, people that will go and try to find a private caregiver, someone that a neighbor may have had someone, mentioned someone, and that's fine and doable, but most of the people that get that don't check their backgrounds. They don't check there, and we've had, I hate to say it, multiple times where we've gotten new clients because unfortunately there was the caregiver stole something from them. They were using a private caregiver. They never checked their references or anything. Then finally the family decided to go with an agency because unfortunately it was too late, but that's what happens sometimes. They don't vet the caregiver to the level that we do. And because it is difficult to do it on your own. Asking for help is, I think, something that you learn as you get older, that, everyone needs help at times. And I find there's resistance to people wanting to ask for help. I'll give you an example. We've had many situations where the spouse of someone wants to have help for his wife or vice versa, and that person feels, I don't need help. I could do what I've been doing fine, What's that, pride or whatever it is, but it's, that I find something that I've learned since being in this business that has caused more problems than, done more bad than good, because denying that help and denying that you need it is causes a lot of problems within the house, the relationship, and because people are worried about these people, worried about their spouse or whatever, and trying to get them to understand that it's okay to ask for help and have help is difficult. And I find that that's an area that needs to be addressed with the family members, and make some of the senior community know that it's okay to ask for that kind of help, and that there's I think they find later, once they do it, that they have more freedom and they can do a lot more than they thought they could, just by having that security of having someone around. If someone thinks that they need help for their family member, themselves, first thing is to reach out to a place like us, a nurse registry, a home care agency, and ask certain questions. Find out how it works, pricing, do they need a deposit, how much will it cost me for a week, a day, and so on, to get all the information. There's obviously a lot of websites you can go on. You can go on the internet and put in home care and get a lot of information today. But there's nothing like talking to a real person. So if you call, say, I'm not sure, I need help, maybe a caregiver, what do I have to do? One, do they have long-term care insurance? Many people do. Some people haven't. They don't know it because they haven't used it in 30 years or ever. We'll do all that for them. It's a simple process, the claim form, getting it in, getting it approved, letting them know if they're going to get approved. There's certain conditions that have to be met, but they're not difficult. If we'll know just from a consultation, we'll know if they'll be able to get approved for it. Ask for a consultation with us. It's free. We'll come to your house, come to our office, or we come to your house. We'll sit with you as long as it takes and explain the whole process, which is really not long at all. It's if from the time someone thinks they want to have a caregiver, they could be there in 2 days. We could have a caregiver in their home. Just so you know, there are no conditions. You could start and stop caregiver at any time. There's no long-term contracts. So there's nothing to lose, basically. You make the phone call, find out what you need to find out, ask any question, and you'll have your answer right away, and you can make a decision. I think the big step is finding out what's involved so you can make the right decision, or that family could make the right decision with you. It's a lot of times you get calls from family members because they see things differently sometimes than the actual client. Someone may say they live out of state and they know their parent needs someone in the house, but the parent doesn't feel they need anyone in the house. So you got to get both on the phone sometimes and discuss it, and then they can make a decision based on facts rather than hearsay of what's involved and how much it costs and so on. Like I said, there's no long-term contracts. There's no contracts. So if after a week or 2 weeks they feel this isn't working for them, they don't need this, they stop. There's nothing to lose. The benefits are enormous. You see what it's about. You're comfortable with it. Now it just goes on from there, and it can become full-time or whatever schedule suits the client. It's a very client-based project in the sense that the client determines when, how often, and they control all the aspects of the care. You don't find that in a lot of things we do. It's like you can decide your own schedule, your own time, whether you want someone in the afternoons, whether you want them in the morning, whether you want them just at night, just in the day. So there's a lot of freedom to figure out a schedule and how you're depending on your lifestyle and what you do. So you can cater it to follow your lifestyle. If the client needs assistance with bathing, dressing, driving errands, doing shopping, or just wanting to take walks, they're there to be with them the entire time, whatever it takes. The limitations are just medical limitations. They can't do any medical procedures. They're not allowed. They're not permitted to give injections, things like that. But all sorts of personal care, safety, for grooming, for comfort. They're there to do whatever the client asks for. They take them out for dinner, to go to lunches, if they have down here, if they want to go play cards, they could take them to the card room, they could wait for them to be done, and then they take them home. If they want to go to a movie, they take them to a movie, they sit with them until it's over, and they take them home. Well, meals is part of it. Meal preparation. At home, the caregiver will prepare lunch, prepare a dinner. I mean, they're not cooks, they're not chefs, they're caregivers, but they're there to make sure the person eats healthy, eats 3 times a day, 2 times a day, whatever the doctor or the family feels is best for the client. We do a plan of care, and the plan of care will say, basically, tells the caregiver what each client needs. And if part of that care, for example, if a client is diabetic, there's certain foods they can't eat. Caregiver will know that, know not to prepare anything like that. If the client requires assistance with putting their socks on or shoes on or whatever, that's part of the plan of care, and the caregiver knows what her role is, her or his role is. So it's all pretty much, we try to map it out so that the caregiver knows what the essentials are, what they have to do, and then all the in-betweens are whatever the client wants to do. So there's a lot of freedom, there's a lot of, the client really is the boss, and whatever they want to do, the caregiver's there to make sure they do it, they can do it, and they can do it safely. Caring is probably number one. You have to care about your business and your clients. And I could give you an example of things that have happened. For example, there were times where you have caregivers 24/7, which we usually put 2 12-hour shifts for a client. Can't be without help. And at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the caregiver will call and say, my car won't start, my child, I have to take him to the hospital, to the doctor, whatever. Well, what happens? Some agencies will just call the client and say, oh, well, your caregiver will not be able to come tonight, sorry. What we do is, even after hours, we have with our proprietary software, which has our scheduling and list of every caregiver and client accessible through the cloud anywhere we are, either on your phone or a laptop. We'll get together with my partners, Jimmy and Kathy, at 7, 8 o'clock at night and start making phone calls to the caregivers in the area, who's available. Sometimes we can do it quickly, sometimes it may take a few hours, but we have never, we have never left one of our clients without care. And we're very proud of that record, because when we take on a client, we take on the client to care for them, make sure they have the care, even though they supervise their own schedule and so on. Things happen, and things like this are going to happen. You can't have guarantee that there's going to be someone waiting to take that person's place at the drop of a dime or at 7 o'clock at night, but if you put the effort in and make the call to the hundreds of caregivers we have, we will get someone over there. But the extent of what the agency will do when these situations arise is what makes the difference from one agency to another.